back. This is a terrible story, but we have to talk about it. It's the Cape of Good Hope SPCA. They've come out, they're sounding the alarm, listen to this, over fake vets. So if you're down in the Western Cape, and I imagine really if you have pets at all, you might want to pay attention to this. Now, I hope there aren't children in a room, but if they are, quickly block their ears. It's regarding a story of a cat that was getting castrated on a dining room table. It almost left the pet dead. Luckily, they were able to intervene quickly with qualified professionals who saved little Howard, the cat's life. Luckily, Howard, I understand, is doing okay. But it's an awful story. The SPCA's Belinda Abram taking just a few moments for me this morning. Hello, Belinda. Good to have you with us. Just tell me how this story even came about. How did we end up with poor little, what was his name, Howard the cat, on a dining room table? Good morning.
Good morning to you, Gareth, and good morning to the viewers. So this incident, I think, is particularly concerning, mostly because it involves people who are taking advantage of pet owners trying to do the responsible thing. And in this case, you know, the pet owner was basically defrauded by this individual who castrated the cat on her dining room table and did so barehanded. And there were a couple of concerning things about this. Number one, the fact that Howard was flinching throughout the entire procedure, and that's alarming. And there was the use of excessive force, and of course, 2 to 3 hours later, Howard was bleeding profusely and had to be rushed to a private veterinary practice for medical assistance.
So what do we now start warning people about? I mean, never in all the years of doing this, and I think we'd have to warn people about fake vets in our country, but here we are. So now how do we try and educate people? I suppose the only way to ask this is to find a qualified, authorized vet versus a fake vet. How do we now know the difference? What a bizarre thing to have to ask.
I think we do have a responsibility as pet owners to make sure that our pets get the required and qualified medical care when they need it. But I think the number one rule of thumb for me, Gareth, is the fact that, you know, a private veterinarian is never going to do a house call, particularly not a veterinarian that you don't have an existing relationship with. So that would be number one. Very alarming for me. Secondly, what we've picked up is that these individuals generally are recommended by a friend or a friend of a friend, and then they would be offering treatments like deworming or tick and flea control at really low prices, you know. And typically, as with everything, if something's too good to be true, you're very likely being defrauded. So, you know, the other thing is, of course, that a qualified veterinarian would never carry out a procedure like this in an unsterile environment, and even less so do it barehanded. So I think those are just a few things. And, you know, if people are worried, rather give the South African Veterinary Council a call. All parties registered with the council are required. All people working with animals, veterinarians or paraveterinary professionals, are required to be registered. So rather do that confirmation. Don't put your pets at risk.
Yeah, instead of just taking, as you say, word of mouth for someone that you might not know at all. I just find it bizarre that in a case where a castration took place on a dining room table, the alarm bells didn't go off. But that's why I wanted to make sure everyone knew what we were talking about. Belinda, just as I say goodbye to you as well, someone who still might not be sure, I've always said this, I maintain this, I'm sure it's still the case. When in doubt, when it comes to the care of your animal, just go to the SPCA. Chances are, if you can't do the procedure, at least you can help to send the animal to the right place. I imagine that's still the call.
Absolutely. And, you know, the SPCA as a movement remains huge advocates for animal sterilization. It's probably one of the very few tools we have at our disposal in the fight against animal cruelty. So it's preventing a number of things, including the cruelty and suffering that arises from animals that are unwanted, as well as an overabundance of animals in your care. So please look out for your closest SPCA. Visit the website nspca.coza, find your closest SPCA, and rather check out how you can get this procedure done by a qualified professional.
And just as I say goodbye to you, what is the status of little Howard? I don't want any little boys and girls having nightmares tonight thinking that Howard has been butchered by a bogus vet and it's not a good story. What do we know?
So we do know that Howard has recovered quite well and is back home with his loving pet owner. So we're very thankful for that, and of course the immediate intervention of the vets who saved his life.
Yeah, well done to the vets and all the best. Little Howard, the cat, terrible for him to have to go through that. But thanks for the good news out of the Cape of Good Hope SPCA. Belinda Abram, thank you very much, as she says as well. If ever in doubt, even if it's a financial issue, we all know how costly pets can be. Please don't ever just go for a bogus vet or a friend of a friend who's doing a favor. If you're unsure, phone the SPCA. They will guide you and put you back on the road that you need to be. All right.